The late summer sun scorched Bagram Air Base, its runways shimmering under the relentless heat. Once, this place was a fortress of American might, echoing with the thunder of jets and the bustle of troops. Now, those familiar sounds had faded, replaced by a new and jarring symphony. The engines that roared across the tarmac belonged not to American forces, but to the Taliban, driving captured U.S. military vehicles with a sense of triumph and disbelief. On August 14, 2024, a spectacle unfolded. Rows of Humvees and armored trucks, freshly repainted with Taliban insignia and flags, rolled forward in a tightly choreographed parade. The vehicles, once symbols of foreign power, now moved in perfect formation under new ownership. Taliban soldiers, blending traditional dress with scavenged American gear, stood in disciplined formation. Above them, helicopters, once used to hunt them, now circled in a show of dominance, their rotors thundering as a symbol of the new order. This was more than a celebration, it was a declaration. To Afghans and the watching world, the message was unmistakable. The spoils of a 20-year war now belonged to the victors, and the era of foreign occupation was over. For Taliban leaders, this parade at America's former nerve center was the ultimate vindication, a display of perseverance, patience, and the ability to outlast a superpower. It was also a reminder of the chaos and confusion that marked the U.S. withdrawal. Every vehicle and weapon on display was more than just hardware. It was a symbol of transformation, marking the Taliban's journey from insurgency to state power and their newfound control over the tools of war. For foreign journalists and observers, the sight of Taliban fighters confidently handling U.S. weaponry was a stark, almost surreal reminder of the war's abrupt and dramatic end. Cameras captured every moment, broadcasting the new reality to the world. The parade crystallized the consequences of that turning point, a new regime rising from the ashes of a fallen government, built on the remnants of abandoned vehicles and shattered alliances. In Bagram, the past and future collided, and the world watched as history was rewritten before their eyes. Bagram Air Base, once the heart of American and NATO power, stood as a sprawling testament to foreign military might in Afghanistan. Its runways buzzed with the constant movement of troops, aircraft, and supplies, making it the nerve center of Western operations in the region. Now, in a dramatic reversal, it served as the stage for the Taliban's victory parade, a moment that captured the world's attention and marked a turning point in Afghanistan's story. For 2 decades, Bagram was a fortress of foreign occupation, a launchpad for military campaigns, drone operations, and a symbol of Western dominance that loomed over the Afghan landscape. By parading here, the Taliban turned a site once associated with their defeat and vulnerability into a platform for triumph, rewriting the narrative of Afghanistan's recent history in a single, powerful gesture. The message was clear: foreign rule was over, and the Taliban now commanded the very fortress built to contain and repel them. Their presence at Bagram was both a statement and a warning. This spectacle was carefully orchestrated to project legitimacy, intimidate any internal resistance, and signal to the Afghan people that their rule was unchallengeable and here to stay. The parade also served as a powerful piece of propaganda for an international audience, forcing the world to confront the new reality on the ground and the shifting balance of power in the region. While most nations refuse formal recognition, the Taliban's control of Bagram was a visual assertion of sovereignty, a bold claim to legitimacy in the face of global skepticism. It was a psychological victory as much as a military one, reinforcing their grip on power and sending a message of confidence to both supporters and adversaries alike. The symbolism was unmistakable. You may not recognize us, but you cannot ignore us. The world was forced to watch as the Taliban claimed the spoils of war. Bagram's transformation was the Taliban's declaration that Afghanistan's future would be written on their terms, and that the era of foreign intervention had come to a definitive symbolic end. The military hardware on display at Bagram was a stark reminder of the U.S. withdrawal's aftermath. The Taliban inherited an arsenal worth billions, armored vehicles, aircraft, and hundreds of thousands of weapons. This windfall instantly transformed them from guerrilla fighters into a conventional military force. The seized equipment included Humvees, MRAPs, Black Hawk helicopters, and over 300,000 small arms. U.S. political leaders have demanded the return of this equipment, but the Taliban insist it is now Afghan property, spoils of war. For the Taliban, this arsenal is a tool for consolidating power, projecting authority, and suppressing dissent. While questions remain about their ability to maintain such advanced gear, for now, it gives them a decisive advantage. The parade was a celebration of both victory and the material inheritance that continues to shape Afghanistan's balance of power. For Afghans, the third anniversary of Taliban rule is a study in contrasts. Security has improved, the bombings and assassinations of the past have largely ceased, and daily life is less violent. Yet this peace comes at a steep cost, especially for women, minorities, and former government workers. Women are barred from education, most jobs, and public spaces. Civil society and press freedoms have vanished. The fear of war has been replaced by the fear of repression. The economy teeters on collapse, with sanctions and frozen assets pushing millions into poverty and hunger. International aid flows in, but only through NGOs, bypassing the Taliban government. The Taliban tout progress, claiming to have curbed corruption and stabilized the currency, but blame sanctions for the country's woes. Ordinary Afghans navigate new rules, economic hardship, and lost freedoms, cherishing the absence of war but mourning what's been lost. The peace is real, but it is brittle and impoverished. 3 years on, the world's response to Taliban rule is a complex mix of condemnation, cautious engagement, and strategic calculation. Governments and international organizations weigh their options, balancing moral outrage with pragmatic concerns about stability and security in the region. No country has formally recognized the Islamic Emirate. The US and its allies maintain strict sanctions and continue to freeze Afghan assets, hoping to pressure the Taliban into reforms. These measures, however, have also deepened Afghanistan's economic crisis. Humanitarian aid continues to flow, routed through the UN and international NGOs to avoid empowering the regime. Aid workers face immense challenges, navigating both bureaucratic hurdles and security risks on the ground. Regional powers like China, Russia, and Pakistan engage more directly, driven by security and economic interests. Their involvement is shaped by concerns over extremism, border stability, and the potential for new trade routes. The return of Donald Trump to the White House has raised hopes in Kabul for a possible reset in relations, but major hurdles remain. Many Afghans wonder if US policy will truly shift, or if old patterns will persist. The Taliban's annulment of the 2020 Doha Agreement and ongoing human rights abuses keep them isolated. International outrage over restrictions on women and minorities further complicates any path to legitimacy. The international community faces a dilemma: how to help Afghans in desperate need without legitimizing the regime or undermining human rights. Every decision is fraught with ethical and political consequences. Afghanistan remains a pariah, its people caught between global politics and harsh local realities. Daily life is marked by uncertainty, hardship, and a sense of abandonment by the world. The world watches from a distance, its policies shaped by humanitarian need, security fears, and the hope for a better future. Yet, meaningful change remains elusive. The future of engagement remains uncertain as Afghanistan's isolation deepens and the international community struggles to find a way forward. Beneath Afghanistan's mountains lies a trillion-dollar trove of minerals: iron, copper, gold, and crucially lithium. Dubbed the Saudi Arabia of lithium, Afghanistan could become a key player in the global tech supply chain. The Taliban see these resources as a path to economic independence and legitimacy, courting foreign investment to unlock this wealth. China and Russia, eager for raw materials, have already signed contracts and sent technical teams. For the West, the prospect of rivals controlling Afghanistan's minerals is a strategic concern. Yet, decades of war have left the country without the infrastructure or stability needed for large-scale mining. Corruption, insecurity, and legal uncertainty deter most investors. For now, the trillion-dollar prize remains buried, a distant hope for a nation in need. Despite their claims of sovereignty, the Taliban face mounting legal pressure from the international community. The International Criminal Court is investigating senior leaders for gender persecution, potential crimes against humanity. Human rights groups document abuses, oppression of women, extrajudicial killings, and the disappearance of former officials. These reports fuel continued sanctions and keep Afghanistan's human rights crisis on the global agenda. The Taliban's annulment of the Doha Agreement further isolates them, undermining any hope for diplomatic engagement. International law and norms now encircle the regime, blocking access to assets and investment. The Taliban may rule at home, but abroad they remain pariahs, outcasts in a world that demands accountability. The shadow of the ICC ensures Afghanistan's isolation will endure. 3 years after Kabul's fall, the Bagram Parade is a stark statement of Afghanistan's new reality. The Taliban have consolidated power, trading chaos for a brittle peace, at the cost of rights and freedoms. American-made vehicles flying the Emirates flag symbolize a regime built on the ruins of its enemy. For some, the end of war brings relief. For millions, especially women, it marks a new era of repression. Afghanistan stands at a crossroads, a regime triumphant in war, but isolated and unable to deliver prosperity. The parade signals a focus on military strength over social progress or international integration. The nation's future will be shaped by the tension between Taliban control and the needs of its people, and by the world's response. The years ahead promise continued struggle as Afghanistan's fate hangs in the balance.